This is Youth Marketing Academy, Thursday, October 4th. I'm your host, Gani Kunto, hoping that you're having a great day. Because I am, because we have Graham Brown here with us. Hi, Graham.
Hi, Gani.
I want to take some time today to talk about something that maybe not everyone is familiar with, which is the company that you're with, Mobile Youth. Now, you founded the company 12 years ago, and you've been focusing on mobile and youth. But I think a lot has changed in the youth market, and a lot has stayed the same, maybe. Um, if you were to tell somebody who's just entering youth marketing right now, what do you think would be the one most important thing that they need to know?
So, if you were just starting out in youth marketing today, I think the truth today is that youth don't wake up thinking about your brand anymore. It used to be the case 20, maybe even 10 years ago, Gani. Uh, but today, you've really got to get over that. And that we've got to start with this assumption that we don't really mean anything to youth anymore. So, how do we earn our place in young people's universe? So I think if we start with that assumption, then it's a good assumption to have because it gets the positioning right from day one.
So is it harder now to market to youth?
Well, it always has been difficult, but I think what the difference is now that a generation ago you could simply take your marketing and budget, and your challenge was which agency do you give it to? Because inevitably that agency would take your marketing budget, convert it into advertising, and that is how agencies and brands used to win over the youth market a generation ago. But it's all changed. What has changed significantly since then is digital. And now it's not a case of, right, take my ad budget and go spend it and give me the best pitch that you could ever give me, right? Win me an award for this. That's changed. What the difference is now is that you not only have to choose which types of media, which is a sort of a fundamental that you're going to use to get across to young people, but you also have to adopt a different mindset. And you asked me about marketing to youth. Well, we've changed. It's not about marketing to youth anymore. It's about marketing with youth. And that's the fundamental change. And that's what makes it difficult. It's difficult for the companies that continue to market to youth. And if you ask me, what is the one identifying feature of a company that markets to youth? It's a company that turns around and says, how do we have a conversation with young people? If a company's saying that or a brand's saying that, it tells me that they want to market to young people, because the fact of the matter is that young people don't want to have a conversation with brands.
Because a lot of brands are saying that, and they think that it's a good thing, right? That hey, let's have a
Right.
conversation, let's build a dialogue with young people, and all these things. And you're saying that it's actually not a good thing.
Well, what's good is dialogue, but dialogue happens between young people. Nobody picks up a phone and wants to listen to a brand talking to them at the other end, do they? People
Yeah.
talk to each other. That's what's been happening for hundreds, if not thousands of years. A brand's place is how can they facilitate that conversation, not be a part of it. We've got this sort of ego problem in youth marketing, which is like we want to be part of the conversation. But that's as annoying as the guy who keeps popping up at the party and dropping in facts into your conversation when he's not invited, right?
Yeah, and I think in fact now people are paying to not have to listen to you talk,
Yeah.
right? I mean that's what's happening with apps and things like that. They're willing to pay a premium just so that they don't have to hear your message.
And let's have a look at what's happening in Facebook now is that everybody's having to become an advertiser to get their message across, right? Because if you post a status update on Facebook, it now says, do you want to promote this?
Yeah.
So, here's our challenge is that people are just turning off from people broadcasting to them. So you have to pay just to get, aware with young people. But even though they might be aware, they're not paying attention to it. So I think we have to realize that what they're paying attention to is the conversations between each other,
Mm.
and ask ourselves, what can we do to make those better? Not it's the classic sort of dinner party example is somebody's saying something interesting and you say, hey, that's really interesting, but I tell you what's really interesting, something about me. But you're not invited into this conversation.
Yes. So that's the biggest change in the last 12 years. What do you think would be the biggest change in the next 12 years, next decade of youth marketing? What do we need to expect?
Wow, Gandhi, you're asking me to nail my colors to the mast here. 12 years from now is a very long time. I can't give you sort of definites. What we do know, though, is that one of the biggest shifts at the moment is this democratization of media. And really, what that is the ability for what were once called quote unquote the consumers now to produce their own media. Take a look at YouTube as an example. How is it that, the laughing orange, hey, Apple, can
Yeah.
net tens, 20, even maybe 100 million views, when the guy who's producing it is not in any way professional, expert, or qualified. That's the reality now, and it's not just YouTube. It's all kinds of video. It's self-publishing. Look at authors like John Locke, or a lot of the teen publishers. Look at how that is really changing the dynamic of the publishing industry. It's the same as what's happening to music. It's happening to movies. It's happening to investment with services like CrowdTap or Kickstarter or whatever. So I think what's really happening is there's a generation growing up with this capacity now. So we're seeing the same kind of shift, Garni, as we were back in the day in the 17th century in Europe, with the shift from written to printed manuscripts. And that shift basically took the ability to tell stories from an elite few to a very mundane mass. So everybody could write stories, and as a result, you saw this explosion in the 17th and 18th century of folk tales, like Little Red Riding Hood, or Dick Whittington, or whatever, or the Green Man. These were all sort of folk tales which told stories which everyday people could relate to. And they're not the kind of stories about kings and queens and all that kind of stuff, or sort of religious idols. So I think we're going to see a similar kind of explosion, and that's really going to challenge the status quo, the contract, if you like, between what's traditionally the publisher and the consumer, or the brand and the consumer. I think you're going to see a very different world in 10 years' time, where the whole idea of publishing has really been turned on its head.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like, well, change is inevitable. It's just the question is whether we choose to embrace it or fight it, right? And then, well, we were seeing with some industries like publications or like music industries, those who are fighting it are, well, they're fighting a losing battle basically. And the artists and, well, the writers who are embracing the new form of media and engaging their readers and their audience, they're actually doing quite well. Now, speaking about publishing, just like one last thing, you talk about like self-publishing. You have your book Mobile Youth out now. You'll be all over the world talking about the book. Well, who needs to read this book, and what's the main message that they need to take away from it?
Well, if you've got an interest in young people, if you're a marketer, technologist, a social scientist, you want to know that emotional relationship between young people and mobile phones, then get this book. It's quite unique in the fact that it took us 5 years of research going around the world, 500,000 air miles, looking for stories about how young people use mobile phones, and not the kind of stories you'd expect. These aren't stories of young people, texting. This is the story about how young people are breaking the rules and really rewriting the future of mobile in their sort of daily adventures. So it goes from the favela slums of Rio de Janeiro to the being chased by the religious mutawa of Saudi Arabia. That this is the reality: is that young people around the world face different kind of pressures, different kind of social situations, and it creates a very different kind of innovation. If you want to understand innovation, and innovation is key to your job, whether that's in the form of technology or trends, then you do well to see it from young people's perspective, and that's what this book's really about.
And of course, you can get the book from Amazon on Kindle. There's a printed version too, right, Graham?
That's right. Yeah, just go. I mean, if you're on Amazon, just Google the Mobile Youth, or if you
Yes.
want to go to the website, go to mobileyouth.org.
and you can find out more about it there. All right, thanks, Graham. That was a really fun interview, pretending like we don't know each other.
Yeah. It's funny.
All right, so make sure that you tune in to next episode of Youth Marketing Academy tomorrow on Friday. That's it for today's show. I'm Gani Kunto signing off. Take care.